Imagine standing in your boss's office, wrapped head to toe in bandages like an ancient mummy, trying to explain that a single weapon destroyed an entire metropolis. Your boss looks you in the eye, chuckles dismissively, and tells you that your story is physically impossible. Then, at that exact split second, a blinding white light floods the room, the walls disintegrate, and a second nuclear explosion rocks the earth. This is not a dark comedy sketch. This was 11 o'clock on the morning of August 9th, 1945, in Nagasaki, Japan. The man in bandages was Tsutomu Yamaguchi, and against every law of probability, he was currently experiencing his second atomic bomb in under 72 hours. To understand how anyone ends up as the primary target of cosmic bad luck, we have to rewind to the spring of 1945. Tsutomu Yamaguchi was not a soldier or a spy. He was a 29-year-old naval engineer working for Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. His everyday life consisted of sitting at a drafting table, calculating steel stress, and designing oil tankers. He was a quiet family man who enjoyed poetry, loved his wife and baby son, and desperately wished for the war to end so he could return to his ordinary routine. In May, his company sent him on a 3-month business trip to the busy industrial city of Hiroshima. Little did he know his trip was about to be extended in the worst way. By early August, Yamaguchi's temporary assignment in Hiroshima was finally complete. August 6, 1945, was supposed to be his last morning in the city. He woke up early, packed his luggage, and walked to the train station with 2 coworkers. He was dreaming of sleeping in his own bed in Nagasaki that night. But right as they reached the platform, Yamaguchi realized he had made a classic everyday blunder. He had left his hanko, a personal signature stamp required for official business documents, sitting on his desk at the shipyard. He told his friends to go ahead and walked all the way back across town to retrieve it. That single forgotten object would alter the trajectory of his life forever. At 8:15 in the morning, Yamaguchi was walking alongside a potato patch about 2 miles from the blast center. Suddenly, the sky didn't just brighten, it ripped open. A flash of light, like 1,000,000 magnesium flares, blinded him. Before his brain could register what was happening, he dived into an irrigation ditch and covered his eyes and ears. A shock wave traveling faster than sound flattened everything for miles, shredding his clothes and tearing off his eardrums. A giant column of fire rushed over him. When he pulled himself out of the dirt, the morning sky was pitch black with floating ash, and Hiroshima had simply ceased to exist. He had just survived the world's first combat nuclear strike. Despite severe burns across his upper body and ruptured eardrums, Yamaguchi did not panic. He stumbled through the burning ruins, searching for his lost coworkers. Against all odds, he found them alive in an air raid shelter. They spent an agonizing night surrounded by smoke. The next morning, August 7th, they dragged themselves to the railway station. In an unbelievable feat of logistical determination, Japanese railway workers had restored a single line out of the destroyed city. Yamaguchi crammed onto a train full of refugees, heading back home to Nagasaki, convinced he was traveling to safety. If you are amazed by his sheer determination, hit the like button and subscribe right now for more true history. Yamaguchi arrived in Nagasaki on August 8th and immediately stumbled into a local hospital. The doctor who treated him was actually an old school friend, but Yamaguchi was so heavily bandaged and charred that his friend did not recognize him at first. After getting wrapped like a mummy, Yamaguchi tottered home to his wife and infant son. When he opened the door, his family shrieked in horror, convinced they were looking at a ghost. His wife had to touch his hands to believe he was alive. Exhausted, bleeding and barely able to hear, Yamaguchi collapsed onto his bed. Most people would have taken a few months off work. Yamaguchi took off exactly 1 evening. On the morning of August 9th, 1945, Yamaguchi put on his suit over his bandages and walked to the Mitsubishi offices in Nagasaki. His body was covered in blisters, his left ear was deaf, and he was running a high fever. Yet there he was, sitting at his desk at 8:30 a.m. sharp. His coworkers stared at him in utter disbelief as he shuffled papers with his bandaged hands. Around 11 o'clock, he was called into the office of his company director. The boss wanted an official report on what had happened in Hiroshima, but he was expecting a story about a conventional bombing raid. He was not prepared for what Yamaguchi was about to say. Yamaguchi stood in front of his boss's desk and described a terrifying scene. He explained that a single airplane had dropped a single bomb that produced a flash brighter than the sun and erased Hiroshima in a heartbeat. His boss folded his hands, shook his head, and scoffed. The director told Yamaguchi that he was clearly traumatized and suffering from hallucinations. One bomb simply could not destroy a city of 300,000 people. It was scientifically impossible, the boss argued. At that precise second, as the director was mid-sentence explaining why such a weapon could never exist, the horizon outside the window turned a blinding, horrific shade of glowing white. At 11:02 a.m., the atomic bomb known as Fat Man exploded 3 miles away over Nagasaki. The shockwave shattered the office building, blowing out every window and tearing down walls. The force threw Yamaguchi to the floor, ripping off his bandages and sending glass shrapnel flying through the room. Miraculously, the heavy concrete structure of the building and the landscape of hills surrounding Nagasaki absorbed just enough of the blast to save his life once again. Yamaguchi crawled out of the dust, bruised, battered, and bleeding, but alive. He immediately ran through the ruined city to check on his family. By another unbelievable miracle, his wife and child had survived with minor injuries. In the span of less than 72 hours, Tsutomu Yamaguchi had been within 3 miles of 2 separate atomic blasts. He had absorbed lethal amounts of radiation, lost hearing in one ear, and suffered second-degree burns across half his body. Yet he picked up his family and walked through the radioactive fallout to find shelter. In the years following the war, Yamaguchi slowly recovered. He worked as a translator for the United States military, then became a high school teacher, and eventually returned to Mitsubishi as an engineer. For decades, he kept his unbelievable story quiet, preferring to live a normal, quiet life, surrounded by his children and grandchildren. It was not until 2009 that the Japanese government officially recognized Yamaguchi as a double survivor, known as a Nigu Hibakusha. While hundreds of people were suspected to have been in both cities during the strikes, Yamaguchi became the first person legally certified as surviving both ground zeros. Scientists were baffled by his long-term health. Despite receiving double doses of radiation that should have destroyed his DNA, Yamaguchi lived a rich, vibrant life. He became a passionate advocate for global nuclear disarmament in his later years, even addressing the United Nations. He finally passed away in 2010 at the ripe old age of 96. Yamaguchi's story seems like an impossible cosmic joke, but it actually reveals a profound truth about human nature today. We often believe that our plans dictate our destiny, and when catastrophic bad luck strikes, our immediate reaction is to argue with reality, just like Yamaguchi's boss did seconds before the second bomb fell. But true resilience isn't about avoiding the unstoppable forces of life. It is about how you pick yourself up, put your bandages on, and keep moving forward when the impossible happens twice. Yamaguchi did not survive because he was invincible. He survived because he refused to give up on getting back to his family no matter what hit him. Tsutomu Yamaguchi faced 2 atomic bombs, defied all statistical odds, and lived almost a century to tell the tale. The next time you feel like you are having a bad week because your coffee spilled or your train was delayed 5 minutes, just remember the man who forgot his stamp and walked into history twice. If this wild historical true story made you laugh and think, smash that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment below letting me know which unbelievable historical story you want us to illustrate next. Thanks for watching, and stay curious until our next adventure.